Let's start by having a bit of an introduction, and then we can get started with the different speakers here online today. So first of all, thank you everyone for joining us today. We are of course here today to try to talk a bit more about what is real world assets really, and how is different type of transactional methods going to make this a reality. And this is why we brought in various different industry leaders and professionals, both from the chain side, from the financial transactional side, and also from the tokenization and real world trading axis. So we are really going to go through a various different type of topics on this whole area. And the purpose of today is really to make a bit more of an educational session and want to have a good discussion going between the different leaders here on the call. I'm going to start by handing it over to JP to give a bit of an intro to both himself, but also to the Mantra project before we jump on to the next one.
Awesome, appreciate it. Really, really good to be here. Excited to be here with a lot of industry leaders talking about RWAs. Have known some of these folks for years, so I often say, like, at least at Mantra side, we've been doing RWAs before they were called RWAs, STOs or other things. So it's good to see that some people in the industry have been really convicted about this space and have really worked, frankly, their asses off to continue to further it. So it's awesome that we're all here today. Excited to share more about what we're up to. But quick self intro. From the States originally, have lived most of my adult life outside of the U.S., primarily in Europe and Asia. Been in Hong Kong for the last 7 years. Before that was in Shanghai. Very early adopter of crypto and blockchain. Bought my first Bitcoin back in 2013. So fairly OG from that perspective. But started working full time in the space I guess technically in 2017 after I quit my job at a bank, even though at the bank I was working in research focused on blockchain and crypto. So really been around the space. I've worked in centralized exchange business, brokerage. We actually tokenized one of the first regulated private placements in the US back in 2019, where we tokenized a professional basketball player's contract, which was pretty cool. So it was like a very early on RWA, I would say. But founded Mantra back in 2020, DeFi summer, initially launched as a DeFi DAO protocol. I think a lot of people kind of remember us from those early days. We had a bunch of different products: staking, lending, borrowing, launchpad, etc. And more recently, we've really been focusing on creating a kind of sustainable competitive advantage surrounding our business by looking into on-chain permissioning and regulation and compliance as a core feature of our protocol. So we both build an application as well as a blockchain. Mantra itself is a layer 1 blockchain built on the Cosmos SDK for asset tokenization. We'll break down a little bit more about what are the core features of that later. But we're also heavily focused on this idea of an app chain. And that means we're like an application first protocol where we effectively built the chain to support our use case, which is on-chain permissioned applications and asset tokenization. So the application itself will be an on-chain exchange to invest, trade, and participate in crypto assets, RWAs, STOs, etc. We're in the process of getting licensed by VARA, which is the Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority in Dubai. Spend a lot of time out there, in the last mile at the moment, and looking forward to get that across the line to be one of the first self-custodial exchanges with that licensure. We have a massive pipeline of deals across a number of different asset classes for RWAs, and excited to share more about that, and hopefully be able to find some more partners to work with from this occasion. So looking forward to sharing more, and also hear from the other speakers.
Thank you, JP. That was awesome. Thank you for letting us know a bit more about yourself and also Mantra. Sounds fantastic what you're working on, and we're really excited to have you here today. I will hand it over to Eitan from Kima to take the next seat and do a bit of an introduction to their side.
Thank you. So hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today and having me as a speaker. So I'm Eitan, co-founder and CEO of Kima. A little bit about my background. So my background is in deep technological products. I come from software engineering, and for quite some time, 3 decades, I've been involved in multiple large-scale projects. Worked for startups and multinational companies. My journey in the crypto space also started back in 2013, right after reading the Nakamoto white paper, which was a mind-blowing experience. And since then, I decided to dedicate more and more time until it became full-time to this space and the innovation that it brings. We've been working on the Kima blockchain solution and concept for over 2.5 years now. The premise for Kima is interoperability. So very early on, we realized that in order for this space to flourish and be a part of the mainstream finance and our everyday lives, we need to make sure that everything gets connected with everything. So we cannot think of assets as silos, as islands. We need to make sure that value and assets and messages can cross ecosystems. And we designed a unique solution that at day one set some very ambitious goals to be secure by eliminating every known attack vector, as well as be completely agnostic to the ecosystems that we connect. Therefore, we're not only looking at cross-chain fragmentation as a problem, we're looking at the more broader perspective of how we can connect Web2 and Web3. And obviously, real-world assets is part of this challenge where we connect underlying real-life assets with tokens. So Kima is an underlying architecture to remove the fragments and abstract those fragments completely to enable the transfer of data and funds and value across those ecosystems. So that's the vision, that's the mission. Obviously, we'll dive deeper into the specific later today.
Fantastic, Eitan. Thank you so much for giving us a bit of a rundown on Kima and everything you're doing technologically to make this a reality and actually connect the Web2 and the Web3 space more seamlessly. I'll hand it over to IXSwap for the VP to give us a bit of an introduction to what is IXSwap and how are they tackling the RWA space.
Yeah, thank you very much, evening or good day, guys. I think a lot of our audience was expecting Julian today, but I will be stepping in. Hi, I am Gene Maruyama. I am the VP of Marketing for IXSwap and sister company InvestaX. And first of all, InvestaX is the pioneer, founded in 2015 when we were still tokenizing what we used to call STOs. InvestaX was also the first one to pilot the tokenization of VCCs, or variable capital companies, alongside UBS, State Street, and PwC for MAS called Project Guardian. We were also the first ones to introduce digital employee share options, which is basically DSOPs, which allows employee shares on the blockchain. And InvestaX is the first RWA platform that is currently integrated with Coinbase Wallet. With the sister company of IXSwap, of course, we are the world's leading AMM regulatory compliant powered DEX, which basically means that we can allow anyone with an RWA token to come on the platform and start their own liquidity pool. More importantly, what this means is we allow basically all investors to come into the platform and get a hold of an RWA token for as low as $1. Currently, an interesting thing that we're doing so far with both platforms is we're working with one asset exchange where we will be tokenizing um, IP rights for an upcoming movie, lead comedian Kumar, and we allow film enthusiasts to basically be film investors. So basically, what we're doing as an RWA platform is we're trying to create better offerings and deals and basically RWA products that would cater more to the DGen market. We feel like there's a lack of intersection between Web2 and Web3 is because if you really think about it, your financial investors, your investors now, they're not too heavy or finance savvy, right? So what we want to do is basically create interest based off the offerings that we could be offering on our platforms, and that's something that we're currently working on at the moment. So yeah, quick introduction for me. Thanks, guys.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for giving us a bit of a rundown of how you're going to change the world of real world assets through a decentralized exchange and the whole technology around that. I'll hand it over for the last speaker for today, which is Kevin Yunai from the RWA Incorporated team. So if you could give us a bit of a rundown and intro as well.
Yes, hey everyone, Kevin Yunai here, and I founded RWA Inc. some years ago. And we've been working ever since to build a full ecosystem for real world asset tokenization and investment. And as many of you know, we are launching our token soon on a lot of central exchanges. So that's very exciting. But really, our focus is on operations. It is to speak with clients, issuers, and have them tokenize their real world assets and deploy these assets onto our great partners' blockchains, Mantra included. So that's really what we're doing. We are not just speaking about it, we are actually doing it. We are in process of tokenizing a lot of billions dollars worth of assets for family offices and for private issuers and so on and so forth. So it's really incredible times now because now, and it has not always been like this, but now the institutional owners of assets and the family offices, they are ready to tokenize. And that's really what I want to bring today, that this shift we see now, they are all very, very all in, you can say, on bringing all their assets to tokenization. They want to go on the chains, they want to go on the exchanges and the marketplaces. So it's tremendously interesting what's happening now. And really the market cap is still relatively low in the space, you can say. So you will see the market caps blow up here over the next 6 months with all the new assets being deployed. We see real estate being deployed. We see a lot of commodities actually being deployed, and also company shares and IP rights and other asset types. So super, super interesting times we're living in.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kevin. So the first thing I actually want to do here, guys, is that I know that you gave a bit of an intro to each of your projects, but I would like every single one of you, one by one, and we can do it in the same order, just to give a very brief kind of explanation of what you believe the major obstacles between Web2 and Web3 are today as an overall. So JP, if you wouldn't mind going first.
It's a good question. I still think there's not like clear rules, ways of doing things, in certain cases, regulatory frameworks that allow like the seamless movement of value and assets in an on and off chain environment. And a lot of that deals with distribution, and a lot of that deals with securities, how these things can trade, how these things can be invested in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that being said, it's not just all about like regulation and these type of things, but actually like a lot of the real world process has not been translated into a digital space. So I'll just use an example to kind of like allow you guys to understand one thing that we're dealing with. We have a pretty big pipeline of real estate that we're going to be tokenizing in different forms in the UAE. But we're not tokenizing it in the sense of like, okay, you buy a token that represents a house or a condo or a villa or whatever, and you now own that thing. Because in the UAE, you actually have to have a your name on the title deed, which is actually just a physical piece of paper. And just because you own a token, even if it says that you own the house, it doesn't necessarily mean that you own the house. So like this translation of real world value, real world things into an on-chain environment is the most challenging thing that we deal with. And this is like industry by industry, vertical by vertical, jurisdiction by jurisdiction type of thing. So it's very challenging and not easy. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we deal with. And I imagine the other speakers probably something similar too.
That's awesome. No, I think that's super clear, JP, and I definitely agree from my personal side that this is an important area, is to figure out how do we do this when it's not the actual asset that's on chain, but it might be a utility of the asset or something else, right? So it's
absolutely
complex area. But I'll try to hand it over to you as well, Eitan. If you could speak a little bit about what do you believe the biggest problems are between Web3 and Web2 today?
Yeah, so obviously from our perspective as a protocol, as a project that addresses fragmentation, interoperability, and liquidity. So obviously we see these as two major challenges today. So if we're talking about connecting the assets that exist in the real world, so those exist in multiple systems of record. If it's real estate, so there's maybe a government agency that handles the titles. If those are financial instruments, so those may be banks or the central bank. So we see a variety of systems of record, of ledgers, of databases that handle the information. And we need to connect those to a completely different architecture, technological stack that by design doesn't communicate with the outside world. So these silos of records, of data, of information require integrations, and integration has always been a huge challenge in backend systems and enterprise systems. So now we see those challenges even more due to the nature of the way blockchains are being built. The other thing is derived from that, and that is liquidity. So if these systems cannot communicate in a streamlined manner, so funds cannot move either. So we also see silos of liquidity, and if we're looking at tokenization platforms, so then we see yet another dimension of fragmentation in liquidity. So I think that these aspects, the technological interoperability challenges, including security challenges, by the way, and the liquidity challenges, those are two major problems that the space as a whole needs to address.
Yeah, and I think really double clicking on that liquidity question, I think that's also one of the things that we found from the last 10, 15 years in fractional assets, right, which is really what it's been called in the Web2 world, that liquidity and availability were kind of some of the biggest obstacles to making those a reality. And that's maybe where Web3 and the whole technology behind that and some of the speakers of today's session actually can make a difference, right? And kind of democratize the whole real world asset space. Cool, that's awesome. Thank you, Eitan. And let's hand it over to AskRWA again and give one more chance here to talk a little bit about what are the biggest obstacles between Web2 and Web3 from your side.
Yeah, thank you. I completely agree with you guys. I mean, that's the whole reason IXSwap was founded, because after you tokenize everything, what's next? It's going to be the secondary trading of these tokenized assets. And that's something that we've set out to do ever since we incepted IXSwap. But I'm going out on a whim here, and I think one of the biggest obstacles that we're seeing now, especially for IXSwap, fully licensed, live offerings, live tech, live platform, I think it's primarily more of the maturity of the market, right? I mean, BCG, Boston Consulting Group, just said that RWA market is a $15 trillion market, but where are the investors? They're still busy with meme coins. I mean, it would have meant that they would have come into the RWA market and started investing. But it's interesting because we just launched a new deal on our platform, and it's called Coach K's GameFi Portfolio, which is an on-chain tokenized portfolio. And basically, what is this does? It's a KOL-led fund, and wherein the KOL will then use a fund to diversify into GameFi baskets or indexes. And looking at the data that we saw there, about 69% of the participants on this deal were all from emerging markets. And that's interesting because, a lot of these emerging markets get it. And we can also see that a lot of these emerging markets are the ones where regulatory bodies are more open to the idea of blockchain and RWA. So I feel like until we get to the point where a lot of these markets understand the need for blockchain and RWA, will we see more of them filtering in? Because I think demand and regulatory compliance goes hand in hand. Governments don't enact rules just because you know they're there to protect their citizens. So until the demand of these investors coming in are going through that, then we could see more of the adoption coming in. So it's interesting because a lot of that fund came from emerging markets like Brazil, India, Indonesia, the Philippines, Dubai. And it's in these same localities where you can see that a lot of these governing bodies are actually more open to the idea of blockchain technology. So I feel like until people understand the need, which is going to happen soon, because a lot of these other, major countries that are, kind of shutting down the idea, there's no need yet. It's a want. But until they understand that we are heading into a digital landscape, I think that's the main obstacle that we're facing today. So for everyone that's here right now, I think it's just continue building. And until we get into that convergence points, will we see that, the intersection of blockchain really is a need because a digital financial landscape is inevitable. So that's my take on that.
That's awesome, Gene. I just want to say I truly personally, but also from the RWA side, we truly believe in the fact that we need to adapt and we need to build more education, right? We need to make sure that people understand this more. And I think today's AMA is just one example of trying to make that happen, right? Trying to bring some of the brightest people together in the room that can actually help everyone else get even smarter on this and maybe get a new idea, maybe start building more and maybe help with that mass adoption. So I definitely love what you were saying there. Thank you so much. I'll hand it over to Kevin as the last one for this question, and then we'll jump into a bit more of a group discussion afterwards, so we don't just go one by one. But Kevin, please go ahead. If you could talk a little bit more about where do you see the biggest or some of the major obstacles between Web 2 and Web 3 today?
So first and foremost, we have to remember that even though we in the Web3 space know everything about it and are so excited about it, the Web2 in general are very, very new to this. And when you look at the statistics of who holds a wallet today, it's a shockingly low number still, right? When you look at the Web2 space. So we really need to start very, very early and really educate people on how to install their wallets even, and really bring them onto the Web3 journey, because that's when they get the experience that, okay, this is a smart technology. Okay, you can settle no matter where you are in the world instantly, and bring them to that understanding of how smart the technology is. That's the foundation for even speaking about investing into Web3, right? So once you have gone through that educational process that we also talked about here, that's when you really can start speaking about tokenizing own assets, investing into these new high performing assets, and so on and so forth. So education, yes, that's the key word. And also really walking the issuers through the whole process of tokenization. It's a journey, and they love it once they go in. I mean, they we have clients, they're only focusing on that now and bringing all their assets in because it's so interesting for them to really go into the Web3 space. And it's very smart because they have problems in the old financial world with selling their assets and leveraging their assets, right? So we're also helping them at a very high level with becoming more liquid with percentages of all of their holdings. So that's really what I want to emphasize here. Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great point. That really goes back to saying, like, all the people on the call today might actually be the people who are the most educated, right? They're the ones that actually care about this the most and therefore are top of mind with RWA, but a massive amount of the world in the Web2, where a ton of this volume of this 16, 20, $50 trillion market is going to come from, they today don't even think about real world asset tokenization. And as they start getting educated on it, they get super excited about the opportunities, right? So what we're looking into here is most likely an exponential growth in the near-term future. Awesome. All right, let's jump on to a bit of a group discussion here. So instead of everyone going one by one, you're open to jump in whenever you see pleased. So the next topic I wanted to touch on was really, how will the real world asset tokenization focus affect the connection between Web2 and Web3? So how will this make that connection look different?
I mean, maybe I can just go first. I would say, from our perspective, like, there's not really a market for on-chain RWAs today, in my opinion, yet, and a lot of that is just due to access, rules, regulations, etc. Like, we're working on it. Like, IXSwap is working on it. A lot of people are trying to solve this problem, but like at a mass market level, it doesn't exist today. And I think a big part of that is just due to the fact that it's still too, like, crypto native, blockchain forward, and still pretty freaking hard to use. Like, I've been in crypto for a long time, very early user of DeFi, and it's still a pretty shitty user experience, honestly. Having to deal with private keys, having to deal with different types of wallets, and in a permissionless world, you don't know what type of smart contracts you're interacting with. 99.9% of the people out there are not going to, like, actually take the time to look or read or even be able to understand what type of things they're interacting with, which can cause a lot of pain when you do the wrong thing. If you send funds or assets to the wrong wallet, they're gone. If you interact with the wrong smart contract, you get rugged. These are really painful experiences that, if it happens to an individual, it will forever turn them off of anything blockchain, anything crypto, period, right? They're just not going to come back. So making that experience much, much, much simpler. Honestly, in the future, even though we're building a blockchain, like, you won't know that you're interacting with the mantra chain, and that's kind of the goal. You shouldn't have to understand that you're on chain. Like, blockchains are perfect financial ledgers, in my opinion, but that doesn't mean, like, you need to necessarily, as an end user, really be, like, super, like, interacting with them at a very detailed, granular level. You just want to basically be able to trade your asset, invest in it, get access to it whenever you want, bring it to your bank when you need liquidity, whatever, right? So building these types of bridges, I think, is going to be what is going to really drive the real mass adoption of these type of things. That's going to take a lot of time, and a lot of these things are technical considerations. A heavy focus on the user experience, creating a platform where it's simple to use, on-chain technology, not as it currently is, which is status quo, is frankly pretty hard for most people.
So I can I completely agree, and the user experience is definitely a major obstacle right now. If we look at the adoption of other technologies in the past, so obviously everyone compares Web3 to the emergence of the web, the World Wide Web, the original web. So, and when we, those of you who are old enough to remember that, so at the beginning we used to have those applications that try to mimic the old experience. So just one example, Yellow Pages, those big books with phone numbers and people names. Yes, we used to have those once. So Yellow Pages, they bought a domain yp.com, and their first incarnation was to just copy the same experience of holding a long list of names and numbers into a web page. So that obviously was not the right direction. So if you have a groundbreaking technology with completely new capabilities, then you don't want to just mimic the old world. You want to create a web native experience, a mobile native experience. And now we want to build a Web3 native experience that builds on top of the assets, on top of the things that we had in the past, and including liquidity and adoption and everything that we know of those assets, trillions and trillions of dollars. But we need to figure out what does it mean to make them Web3 native or blockchain native. And I think that the key is to look at the concepts that make Web3 and blockchain so important. Things like instant settlement, things like self-sovereignty and ownership. These are the things, these are the moonshot technologies that will get us to the next stage. But I don't think that just trying to mimic the old experience with new technologies, that's something that will work. Now, this is a very abstract concept, and there are many facets to it. One obviously facet that keeps me awake at night is what does it mean in terms of interoperability, how we can, on one hand, basically take the best of both worlds, the nature of a tokenized asset with all the good things in it, and combine it with the liquidity and the availability of assets in the real world, and creating this interoperable framework to make them live together. So that, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, Gene, I can see you unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say I completely agree with Eitan and JP. It's crazy because IXSwap is permissioned and it's there to protect investors. All I have to do is KYC, but they're so completely turned off to the idea of being protected, and being secure, that they would rather go back to their meme coins and be rug pulls. So that's a bit crazy. But going back to the question, I think the real focus of RWA tokenization and the effect is the interest that it brings. Going back to 2021 with the ICO boom, everyone was crazy. We can make money fast, and then boom, regulations set in. Everyone was hurt. Everyone got rug pulled, and then the SEC closed everything down. But then here comes Larry Fink, BlackRock, one of the biggest asset holding firms in the world. He's like, tokenization is the key. And what happened this year was, in a fell swoop, the whole SEC completely changed their mind. They've approved the world's first 11 out of 13 ETFs. And what did that bring? It brought back the attention to the convergence of TradFi and DeFi, which is RWA asset tokenization. So I feel like that's something that's really important. And it's because at the end of the day, a lot of these people will still want to follow regulatory bodies or firms that are really heavily known in the space, it's because it's the same reason why a lot of DGens follow KOLs. You know, we want to follow someone that knows what they're talking about, what they're doing. It's like a moth to a flame. And it's crazy because I think it was recently that Hedera announced that they were going to tokenize a fund of blockchain, not of BlackRock, sorry, not with BlackRock, and it skyrocketed their prices. So I feel like that's the effect of all of these big firms finally seeing what RWA tokenization is, and that's how it's going to create that convergence. Because I feel like mass adoption doesn't really come from the bottom; it will always come from the top. And then once more people see that all these big firms, these crazy guys like JP Morgan, BlackRock, HSBC are finally getting into the space, it will create enough of an interest or pique their curiosity. And I feel like this is why we're doing this now, because while that curiosity is being piqued, we're here educating. We're telling people that, hey guys, we've been doing this for a long time. Here's what we've been doing. The platform is live. So I feel like it's going to create a cascading effect. So that's my take on RWA tokenization and the effect it has on Web2 and Web3.
That's amazing. Kevin, do you have any thoughts on this, or should we jump on to the next one?
Let's jump on to the next one, and I can start.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, I think there were a lot of really important things said here. We heard about adoption, we heard about user interfaces and complexity, we heard about technology that's actually going to change this whole thing, and then we also heard about kind of the whole thing that the big guys are looking into this, and it's becoming reality, right? So I think we're all in the right place at the right time, and as you heard many times before in crypto, we're early, but here we are actually early. This is not something that will boom in 2 months from now. This will boom in 5 years from now, but in that journey, we will see thousands and thousands of exits on various different areas. So let me jump into the next here. And I think this one is actually an interesting thing, because this goes back to some of that technology stuff that you mentioned, Eitan, and feel free anyone to jump in. But I think one of the things that we have a lot of discussions about on the RWA Incorporated side is how do we make sure that this becomes a seamless experience for the Web2 world, right? And I know JP mentioned, user experience. Kevin mentioned that not a lot of people have wallets and don't really want to have wallets because they don't want to be connected to everything. And we heard various different other elements to this, making it a difficulty. But how will a seamless transaction system impact the future of real world asset tokenization? And when I say seamless, what I mean here is imagine a world where currencies between Web2 and Web3 were not dependent on a central exchange or on your bank or something else, but there was a seamless transactional system between the whole thing, and the value of assets were also seamless on blockchain.
Yeah, so I can start. So indeed, this is we were trying to tackle this from a technological perspective, and I think that this is exactly what's needed to build this flywheel. Once we have this seamless transactional system, and value and assets and data, messages can flow freely between those ecosystems, that's when we will be able to create this real flywheel, because initially that will create more adoption. We will remove the barriers between those systems, and applications will be able to utilize multiple ecosystems. So we'll see more adoption. That will create more volume, and more volume will create eventually more liquidity, which will create this network effect. So I think that this is key. And obviously there are multiple, again, this is a multi-layered challenge. We have the technical challenge, we have the user experience challenge. We may have also financial silos that need to be connected and regulation and so on. But at the very basic concept, I think this is the key for the flywheel that eventually will make real world assets pervasive assets in the financial system.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think one interesting thing is also going back to Yellow Pages, it's something similar with Netflix, right? When Netflix first started in 1995, it was crazy. You had to pay for a subscription system, but the way that it worked was you pay for a subscription per month, and then they're going to go ahead and deliver the actual DVD to you. Now that was crazy because during that time, Blockbuster thought it was insane. That they were saying the dot com bubble was insane. It's never going to work. But fast forward to 2007, when Netflix was like, you know what? Instead of bringing the DVDs to them, why don't they come to our platform and stream it directly? And the rest is history. And I'm bringing this up because I feel like we are at that point in RWAs. We are in 2007 Netflix, where right now we only have 1,000 films ready. But imagine a seamless transaction system like JP mentioned that you don't even know you're interacting with IXSwap or Mantra or Kima or RWA Inc. It's just so integrated that people can just flip through a list of RWA products like movies and just choose one and invest into that. It's going to create this super digital financial landscape that no one's even going to think it's going to happen. It's going to happen in a blink of an eye. I think it's completely going to change the game. Imagine being able to buy fractionalized properties from your home, but you're all the way in Asia, and you can do that in Europe or in Africa, or you can do tokenization IP rights and get royal distributions off of films. I feel like the seamless transactions is the next step. I feel like right now it's a bit raw. We're still kind of getting around the whole technology, you know. Like when Netflix first started again in 2007, they were just waiting for the bandwidth to increase for internet to improve, and when it did, it just cascaded. So I feel like we're headed there, and as we go along and as we keep fine-tuning this, we're going to see this happen more and more. Another case point for IXSwap was our KYC process. You know, it's crazy because there will always be an intersection where you want to be regulatory compliant, and you know it hurts the users because you know what it's like to come from web, you know, invest in crypto where people don't know. You just need a wallet address, email address, and you're good. So at the first time when we, you know, before we revamped the KYC process, we weren't really getting a lot of submissions in. But when we kind of catered it around to the demand of the user, that was when we were seeing hundreds per day of people trying to submit KYC. So I feel like as we fine tune the systems that we're going around and we create more interconnectedness, then we'll see a more digital financial world. And I think that's really great. So I feel like everyone that is here right now, we are in 2000 Netflix, but in the next following years, we're definitely going to get there.
That's awesome. Yeah, and Kevin, I know that you didn't have a chance to speak to before, so I'll let you jump in here if you have a few thoughts on how this would work with the seamless transaction systems and how would this maybe impact the whole RWA Incorporated platform.
Yeah, I mean, seamless transactions is very key to connecting the two worlds, and there are many, many ways you can do this smart. We in the Web3 space always think in technical terms and really um, do a lot of efforts in, you know, connecting wallets and all that, but we really need to make it smart for the end users, like really one click. Like, so I think the mobile apps will have a lot of integrations in the future. I think that's one of the ways we can make it simple for the Web2 people to onboard. And then we have to find out how we integrate all our stuff into the app, right? So that's a trend I see. I see clients order these apps right now from us. Um, what else? I mean, yeah, I think we will also see a lot of easier transactions between the old Swift accounts and the Web3 space. I think also the banks and the whole old financial system will have to adapt soon to these trends. Once, and this is what I see, once the issuers really start to push their own infrastructure forward, I think you will see the banks finally adapting. So these are definitely the trends I see.
Fantastic. Awesome. So we only have 9 minutes left here, and I have one thing that I think everyone on this call might actually be very, very interested in hearing from you guys, because you are officially industry experts. You have been working in this space for years. I heard JP talking about several years of building their tech, Kima as well. You know, everyone on this call talking today have actually been spending every single day trying to solve the whole problem around real world assets and connectors and seamless experiences. So if every one of you, one by one, and maybe I'll take it the other way around this time, and I'll actually start with Kevin and go backwards with Gene, Eitan, and then JP in the end. Let me try to get your best prediction or wish in 2024 related to today's topics. What's really your best prediction and wish related to real world assets and seamless transactions?
Yes. My wish and what I see happening is that the industry as a whole unite and work together, partner up, and integrate to each other's platforms and blockchains and so on. It was really clear to me when I was at the token 2049 that this is what happens. You know, we connect, we partner up, we are not seeing each other as competitors, but really as partners. And that's really a trend I can see going global as an industry. And that's really our biggest strength, because together we're stronger than BlackRock, right? So that's a very, very important point, that we need to cooperate, we need to partner, and we need to share each other's technology and platforms. And that way we can sell our Dubai assets in uh, another continent, Brazil, whatever, and they can sell ours, and we can sell theirs. So that is really a trend I see, and I hope that that will come into fruition very soon.
Fantastic. Gene, please go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Kevin. Actually, Kima and AskRWA already partners, and I think we're also talking to Mantra and RWA Inc. to develop partnerships, so I definitely agree. I think one of my predictions for this year is we're definitely just getting started. For anyone that's listening in, we're just at the pinpoint of what's going to be the upward trajectory for RWAs. And my wish is that for anyone that's listening here, go beyond your typical fundamental analysis. Don't just look at price action, who's backing what or who's doing this, but actually go into the technical side and completely understand what each platform is doing. And from then on, you'll see that you wished you would have listened to us, because it's all going to work out for everyone in the long run. It's about building an ecosystem here, and we can't do that without the community. So that's my prediction and wish for 2024.
Fantastic, Gene. Yeah, please go ahead, Eitan.
Yeah, so my prediction is that we will, with more clarity around regulation and the big players coming into this space, we all hear the staggering numbers and forecasts. So I think that we will start seeing the Amazon moment, where on top of the we will see this layered architecture. So we'll have the layer ones and layer twos, and then the issuing platforms, and we will see those marketplaces that try to aggregate, and I think the combination of all of these will force everyone to specialize, to have their own unique value proposition, but it will also contribute to larger distribution. This is what this space really needs, distribution to get at the hands of potential customers and adoption. And my wish is, and I just want to echo the other things that were said here. So I really wish that we will see ourselves as an industry. We will work together. Competition is also a driving force, but at the end of the day, we have mutual interests, and it's essential that we will work together as a community, as an industry, and look at ways to interconnect and interoperate for the benefit of the entire industry.
Amazing, Eitan. Thank you so much. And JP, you're the last here at the end.
Awesome. So my prediction would be, effectively, I think RWAs have had a pretty significant degree of product market fit with institutional players to date. So tokenized assets have been, piloted in banks, worked with, major institutions, between institutions, like across the board for some time now. My prediction would be that this year, retail finds, or RWAs find product market fit with retail. And I think that's starting. It began with US Treasuries. We've had over $1 billion of treasuries on public blockchains, tokenized. And I think that's going to continue. And I think it'll be with products that are a little bit more exotic and alternative than just a tokenized treasury fund. So I think there's going to be a lot of interesting developments on the retail side in the RWA game, in RWA space, which is exciting, particularly since a lot of the folks on this call are retail focused. So that's good. And then I think for the wish, I wish that we get our VAR license so we can play a role in being part of that reason why retail gets the product market fit with RWAs. And I think we're looking forward to collaborate with the rest of the folks on this call. I think, as Kevin mentioned, we're looking forward to have parties deploy on MontraChain, potentially other exchanges that can do joint listings and a lot of different other things with these cross-border asset transfers that we are all excited about. So very excited to be here today. Thanks for all the time, and it was a really interesting conversation.
Thank you so much, JP. Yeah, and I just want to say thank you all for joining today, spending your time here with a lot of people joined us today. I think we had a great conversation about the space in general, some of the issues and kind of constraints there are today, and everything that you guys are actually doing to solve those issues, both from a regulatory but also technical standpoint. And one of the things I love to take away from today is actually the fact that everyone on this call and everyone that I have personally met in this space are ready to work together to make this a reality. And I think that's what we need to do. So we're looking forward to the continued work with all of you guys. And thank you to everyone who joined today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we're looking forward to continue these series and bring more bright people on board.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.